If you keep finding yourself in a position where you are either dating or partnering with men who seem to think you're going to solve all their problems, then this video is for you, because I'm going to be detailing the signs that you are actually in relationship or dating a man who is more in his feminine energy. Hi, my name is Amanda Abeo. Welcome to this channel. On this channel, we talk about how to manifest the life that you desire without all the extra stress, chaos, and drama that most people are accustomed to. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. And make sure to give this video a like, because it helps us get these videos in front of more people. And based on the stories I've been hearing, we need to get this in front of as many women as possible. So you can help us do that by giving this video a like. And one final announcement, I have been getting asked questions about whether or not I do one-on-one coaching sessions for the topic of dating, visualization, finding provider men, all that kind of stuff. And the answer is now yes. As of last week, I am able to do that. I have opened up my calendar for a few spots to be able to do this for this audience. Just FYI, it is very limited. If you saw my last video, then you know that this is not my main business, right? This is not the main moneymaker in this household. So I do this when I have time. So if you would like to grab one of those one-on-one spots, the link is going to be below for you to do that. And for example, we had someone book one last week, and we worked on really creating a mind movie and a visualization so she can start calling in that provider husband. So if you're interested in one of those, grab them. The other thing I'm going to say about this is that I know that this channel is going to grow with time, which means I'm going to have even less time to do these things. And eventually I will have to create courses and all those kinds of things, which means I'm not going to have these one-on-one sessions available when we get there. So if you're interested, then get in now on the ground floor while you can, because if this goes the way all my other businesses have gone, this is going to grow and you're not going to be able to get that access to me for very long. So once again, if you want that one-on-one support, then make sure to grab it below. All right, let's get into the signs that you are either dating or in a relationship with a feminine man. Now, the reason why this came to be is because I've been having a lot more conversations with you all in this community. And also remember that before I was doing this and before I was working with my husband in his business, which was more of a relocation, investing overseas, all that stuff kind of business, before I was doing all that, before I even met him actually, I did a lot of financial coaching and financial education for about 8 years, and I would talk to specifically to women. And then in addition to that, I did like sales and marketing and business coaching for another 7 to 8 years before even starting this YouTube channel. And during that time period, I would hear really crazy stories from the women and the men that they were dating. I noticed this pattern that very successful women had a difficult time in relationships. Now, back then, I didn't really understand what was going on, and quite frankly, I wasn't that interested in it either, because I'm like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I am sticking to money, right? That was my thought process at the time. But now, obviously, a little bit older, more life experience, married, and I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of coaching hours in the last 10 to 15 years, mostly with women. And over and over and over again, I would notice these patterns of women just being burned out and exhausted. I would hear stories of women who, for example, are running a business. The husband isn't really doing anything. He's supposed to be, quote unquote, raising the kids, but she's still the one going to go pick them up from school. Or I hear stories about, my husband is making me go 50-50 on all the bills, so I have to go make money. And I've already talked to him about it, and there's no way that he doesn't want to go 50-50. So the women would feel this insane amount of pressure, because not only do they have like financial pressure on them, but more often than not, they would also end up in situations where they're the ones solving all the freaking problems in the household, or they're the ones making all the travel plans, or they're the ones making all the plans for the kids, which, obviously women are going to tend to kind of naturally fall in that department, especially when the kids are really little, where, the woman is going to be the one who probably has a lot more responsibility and a lot more to do with the children. That's not the problem. The problem is when she's doing that and also has to be responsible for all the bills and also taking care of a grown man. That's when we start running into problems. So this prompted me to start doing some research on what are the traits of feminine men. Now, what I found kind of shocked me, because in case you don't know my story, I was single for about 10 years. I was very focused on my career, and my relationships were not great. They were not as bad as what I hear in the comment section on this YouTube channel or on those one-on-one coaching calls. I was more like avoidant in that regard, where I would just like avoid relationships altogether and just work, which, you know, did benefit me to some degree. And I did avoid a lot of problems in doing that. However, like I said, I kept hearing this over and over and over again with the women. But by the time I was ready to get married, I had already done a lot of internal work. I'd done a lot of work on feminine energy. I'd done a lot of work around what kind of a husband I want and what characteristics and things like that. Because remember, I got married a little bit older. I got married at 36, 35, 36, 35 or 36. So I was a little bit older. When I got married, I had a little bit more life experience, and I had done a lot more internal work before I got married. So a lot of the stuff that I started researching for this particular video actually totally shocked me because I did not have many of these experiences. Even when I was like half in, half out with dating and working really hard, I did not have a lot of the experiences that I'm going to be talking about today. However, it has become apparent that this is like epidemic levels. Like this is, there's so much confusion going on between men and women and the polarity in relationships and it's causing a crisis in the United States. We're seeing the crisis. We've had people book one-on-one calls from the United Kingdom. We know that in Western Europe, it's creating a lot of problems. On our other YouTube channel, Entrepreneur Expat, which is the one that I run with my husband, where we talk more about living in other countries, investing in other countries. I mean, we'll get all the relationship problems over there too, of what's going on all over the world. And it's mostly people from the US, Canada, and Western Europe who are complaining more about relationships than perhaps other countries. And I see it in the comment section here from most of those same areas. And it's not that surprising because, you know, those are the countries that for all intents and purposes are more, you know, liberal than perhaps a lot of other cultures and countries in the world. So it's just getting a little messy, okay? It's just getting a little confusing. So let's talk about it. So here are the signs that you're dating feminine men. And before I get started with that, let me just be clear, do not judge these men. A lot of these men did not have father figures growing up to like teach them how to actually be a man. A lot of them did have father figures growing up and they still didn't teach them how to be a man. And this is like a few generations of confusion that we have going on at this point. So please don't like judge them. Just, you know, be aware of what the signs are and release them. That's the vibe we're going for, right? So you can make room for the more masculine providers. And this will also be helpful because if you understand what the signs are of a very feminine man, then all you got to do is reverse it and you understand what the signs are of a provider husband. So number one, this is so huge, and this is probably one of the things that I've heard women complain about the most in the last 10 to 15 years when I was doing a lot more business coaching. And it's come up on in the comment section on this channel as well, which is the men are not go-getters. They're not ambitious, they're not go-getters, they don't solve problems, they mostly just complain about their circumstances and don't do anything about it. That is huge. One of the things that I was very clear about when I was ready to manifest my husband is that he could not be less ambitious than me. I'm a pretty ambitious woman. You know, I have an expansive appetite and I have ambition, and it was very important to me that whoever I got with was not going to just, you know, lay around and not do very much, or just be satisfied with the status quo. And my husband is neither. You know, my husband's really the one who pushes a lot of the things forward and thinks really big. So if you're dealing with men who are not that ambitious, who are not go-getters, who don't have a plan for themselves or where they're trying to go, they're not very expansive in their way of thinking, you've got yourself a man who's operating from more feminine energy because he's being more passive. The masculine and the healthy masculine tends to be a lot more active. So that's really, really important. Number two, and this is important as well, they're okay with other people paying for stuff, right? So we actually have this really funny situation happen here in Mexico where we went out to lunch with one of our subscribers from the Entrepreneur Expat channel who lives here in Mexico. And she took us out to lunch. And we have this really funny situation happen when we were about to pay, because my husband is not the type of person who likes to let other people pay. My husband wants to pay, always, every single time. And it was interesting because sometimes she was American, from like Georgia and Oregon. She'd lived all over the US, but she's lived in multiple different countries. And sometimes there's like this confusion that happens because you don't know what's acceptable and what's not in terms of like paying and things like that. So my husband was taking out the card and she was like totally confused. I'm like, nope, that's just my husband. He's just going to pay for everything. Now, she did end up sending us money afterward to pay for the whole lunch. And she goes, consider it a wedding present because you guys have helped me so much on the YouTube channel. So I got this. But it was this very interesting conversation where she's like, yeah, I'm just not sure because like you're Latina, but he's like Eastern European and we're in Mexico and I'm American. So there's like this cultural confusion going on. And I was like, oh no, girl, my husband's going to insist on paying. So that is usually a sign of a very masculine man, is if the man insists on paying. Women, listen to me. Men who are operating more in their feminine energy, they actually intentionally seek out high-earning women. So you'll see this happen a lot with women who are lawyers, with women who are doctors, with women who are nurses, with women who are very successful and run their own businesses before getting married. It's another thing if it happens after you're married. Different scenario, potato, different scenario, right? I'm talking about there are men who intentionally seek out women who are making money, and I actually saw this happen in real time in a Facebook group that was for networking. It was mostly women business owners, and then there was this guy in there, and he was like, hey, I'm looking for my millionaire wife, and I was like, red flag, red flag. And then he, I guess, was going to date one of the women in the group, and then it didn't work out for some reason. And then like a week later, he's announcing his engagement to another woman on Facebook. And I was like, well, whoever was going to go out on a date with him, like, dodged a bullet, because that man is showing all the signs of a feminine man who's just looking to rest on his laurels and let a woman take care of him. So red flag. They're like, yeah, I'm looking for a professional woman. I'm looking for someone to build with. No, right? Just run. Just run in the other direction. Okay, next is they don't take any sort of initiative, which I would put this in the same category as they're not go-getters, right? Now, this is a little bit different because them not being go-getters is them not being go-getters in their lives. What I'm talking about here is more about they are not taking the initiative to plan dates. They are not taking the initiative to plan anything with you, really. And they're okay with you doing all the planning and all the chasing. So I see this happen a lot with the married women when it comes to travel. This comes up a lot, actually. So it's really funny because my husband's the better planner than I am, right? He's really good at logistics. He's really good at planning things. That's like his realm of expertise. And he takes initiative to just solve problems, right? And he takes initiative to just get stuff done, which apparently a lot of men out here these days are not doing that, but my husband does. So it's really interesting to me because I'll hear a lot of women saying things like, I'm the one who always has to plan all the travel. I'm the one who has to find the plane tickets, find the hotel, find this, find that. My husband has like no idea what's going on most of the time. And I'm like, that's so interesting because in my relationship, it's actually the reverse, where, for example, like we're going to start doing more travel for the other business. He's the one figuring out all that stuff and how to book it. And I have to renew my passport from within Mexico. He's the one who figured out how I'm going to renew my US passport from within Mexico. Or I needed insurance, right? Medical insurance. He's the one talking to the insurance agents, trying to figure out, okay, which is the better insurance plan. None of that stuff really falls on me. Even when we were moving to another country, and this came up actually on the other YouTube channel, Entrepreneur Expat, we will hear from men a lot who want to move to other countries, and they're like, my wife is not on board. And one of the guests that I interviewed on that podcast, she was a business coaching client of mine from many years ago. Now she lives in Colombia with her husband, and she did like the best tip for all of those men who are trying to convince their wives to move to another country. And she says, here's the issue. The issue is that whether you like it or not, most women are the ones who are carrying most of the labor in a household, especially if they are working, right? Because they're carrying emotional labor. They're the ones taking care of the kids. A lot of times they're the ones doing a lot of the household tasks, and they don't have help for that. And then on top of that, you're like, hey, I want to move to another country. What she's probably thinking is, oh, I'm the one who has to plan all this out. Absolutely not, no way. So what my guest had suggested to those men was, you go figure out how to move to another country. You go figure out where to hire the experts. You go figure out what it looks like to go buy property. You go figure out what the residency and immigration process is like. You go find the attorneys. You go do it. Don't expect your wife to go do it, because she's already doing enough, probably more than enough, probably. So food for thought. Okay, next. This is usually like a sign, like this is a major sign, is a man who's overly focused on his looks. We will probably see this more with the gym rats more than anything. But it's okay for a man to take care of himself. He should, and he should have good grooming. But there's something about being overly focused on the looks and always trying to look better than you that screams feminine man and red flag. And then another one is they always want you to help them, right? So they are always wanting you to go solve problems for them. That's usually a red flag instead of them solving problems. And then in addition to that, if they're bringing you more problems, because some men do that, right? Some men are just like passive and don't solve any problems at all. And other men just bring you problems. If they're in either of those categories, they are more feminine men. And there's a whole other section of this, which is where if they want you to help them with something physical, that is usually an issue, and you have a sign of a more passive man. And then for those of you who are in the dating stage, specifically, if you're on the phone with him all the time or just texting all the time back and forth, and you basically have a relationship with your phone and he's not making any initiative to actually go see you in person, number one, they usually have a lot of female friends that they're doing that with because they're just chit-chatting all day long the same way women do. And number two, they just want to soak up all your time, but they're not actually interested in dating you. So if you got a chatty Cathy, right, who's just texting you all day long with the office drama and all that kind of stuff, you are connected to a very feminine man. All right, so I hope you guys found this helpful. I know that it's very confusing out here these days because you don't know necessarily like what's healthy masculine behavior and what's not. You could just dub this video unhealthy masculine behavior, but it's not really masculine behavior. It's men who are more in their feminine behavior and expecting you to solve all their problems. And if you've got a man like that around, that is not a provider man, okay? That is not a man who is in his healthy energy. Now, some of you are already in situations where you're married, and sometimes it's an issue of just shifting the energy and shifting the polarity. So if you want me to do a training on that or a video on that, just let me know in the comments. But for those of you who are dating, just avoid this whole situation to begin with, because that's basically what I did, right? I was like, nope, I'm not dealing with any of that by the time I was ready to manifest my husband. So hope you guys like this video. Give it a like. Make sure to subscribe, share it with a female friend, because we need to get this out there. My God, we need to get this out there to your sisters. And then if you're interested in a one-on-one session with me to troubleshoot your specific area or your specific problem, that is available for a limited time when I'm able to, because this is the side project, right? So when I'm able to, those spots are really limited. The link to grab one of those is below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.